As woodworkers, we spend so much time learning new techniques and new joinery, but sometimes we get stuck in a rut with a finish. You know, I've got a few finishes that I'm really familiar with, and that familiarity means I just go back to them time and time again. But there is a huge range of really amazing stuff out there. I've just used this Livos product for the first time on a really nice piece. I think it came out really well. And so, you know, opening myself up to some new finishes and different ways of applying things, I'll just run you through the process and tell you what I found. Livos has made a name for themselves for creating some really eco-friendly products that are food safe and especially toy safe and child safe. So, you know, in this business, I have clients asking me for that sort of thing, and it's really nice to have a product I can go to. In this video, I'm just going to be talking about the countertop oil and also the natural oil sealer because it's what I applied in this particular case. They also have some decking oils, bathroom oils, and a bunch of other stuff, but we'll focus on these today. The natural oil sealer and the countertop oil are a really similar product. They're applied in the same way, but the countertop oil is designed to withstand slightly higher temperatures, which means it's less likely to get any rings being formed from a hot cup of tea and that sort of thing. The natural oil sealer comes in a couple colors, so if you're looking for something that has that ability to stain or maintain that natural white color in American oak or pine, they have that range. The countertop oil only comes in clear, but they are interchangeable, so you can apply that first coat of something that's red or white or whatever you like, and then apply the countertop sealer on top if you are looking for that added heat protection. In terms of applying it, slap some on, let it soak in, leave it for 20 minutes or so, wipe all the excess off. As with most other hard waxes, you don't want to close off that pore structure of the timber before you're applying the finish, which means, unlike with poly or some of those solvent-based finishes where you want to sand super fine, with this you really don't want to take it higher than 180. 150 is probably recommended. Using a random orbital, you shouldn't have any swirl marks. You should get a nice finish, but if you go any finer than that, it closes down the pore structure of the timber, which means that oils can't actually soak in, which is what they're designed to do. So after you've put that first coat on, left it 20 minutes, half an hour, wiped that off completely, then you let it dry for 24 hours or whatever it takes depending on how cold it is. One thing to keep in mind though is because you've wiped most of that surface off, it's less susceptible to dust falling on it, which in my workshop is a huge advantage because if I want to keep working, I can't necessarily isolate the pieces that I'm trying to finish. After that first coat is dried, you can go and apply more coats. It's a really interesting finish in that it is quite versatile in how it can be used. With one coat, you have a sort of matte satin sheen level, and it can be used in that way. It'll kind of gives the look to me of a couple coats of maybe say a Danish oil. So it's soaked in, it hasn't really left much of a film on the surface, but it still really pops that color and holds that. What they recommend is around 3 coats. The subsequent coats are really thin, so you drop some oil on. I use one of these white non-scratch Scotch-Brite pads on the random orbital at slow speed to spread the oil all the way in. And then subsequent coats are done in the same way with really small amounts of oil. And you're building up a layer of oil on the surface that is really thin. So the resulting finish doesn't have a high film build. It's nothing like a polyurethane, and it is a lower film build, I think, than a lot of the hard waxes I have used. So you need to think about whether or not that is what you want in your project. With a really low film build, you need to make sure your finish is very high because the film isn't going to cover any of the pores or imperfections in the timber. This is a nice dense hardwood. It's some black butt, some old recycled black butt. It did have some really fine cracking in the surface, which I had to, I filled in and then I sanded back. But you can still see the grain structure of the timber, which you sometimes lose with a higher build finish, like a thicker hard wax or a poly. To get a slightly more durable and shinier finish, you can continue to add coats. They do recommend that before you add each subsequent coat, so when the table is dry, you buff it down with a felt pad or some really fine steel wool like 40 or you know, even finer. I just used this non-scratch Scotch-Brite pad that is meant to just knock down any wax particles and really kind of work them into the timber. Any wax particles that have kind of sort of dried on the surface, or wax crystals. And then you can continue to apply really thin coats. I have heard people go up to 10 for a really, really high sheen. This has had 4 on it, and I'm happy with that. I really don't want it any shinier than that. One consequence of putting more and more coats is you get a higher shine, and there is no way of really knocking that back unless you were going to try and manually knock the shine off with some steel wool or something. So I'm really happy with it. It's a really natural looking finish because it's so thin. It is also obviously really naturally made because it's all made of natural oils and waxes. It doesn't smell, it was easy to apply, it doesn't catch dust on it. I think it really brings out the color in the timber, which is nice. And you know, being totally food safe and child safe means it's great for kitchens and great for kids' rooms. And you know, I'd be more than happy to use it again. For more information, just click on the links below. Don't forget to subscribe, and you'll see, you know, all the videos as we're pumping them out.